Emma Simmons awoke with a gasp, her heart pounding against the delicate weight of a glowing pendant on her chest. The room was her childhood bedroom in the Simmons mansion, all soft creams and gold accents, untouched by the ruin of her past life. She was 18 again, her reflection in the vanity mirror showing a face unmarred by grief, yet her eyes carried the weight of a tragedy only she remembered. The pendant, a family heirloom her mother called the Heart of Fate, pulsed with a faint, otherworldly light, its warmth seeping into her skin like a promise. Emma clutched it, her fingers trembling. She had been reborn, granted a second chance to rewrite a destiny that had once ended in despair. In her previous life, Emma was the sole heiress of the Simmons Corporation, a financial empire built by her parents, Richard and Eleanor Simmons. Pampered and proud, she had been the darling of elite society, her every whim indulged. Yet her heart had belonged to Ethan, a poor scholarship student her family sponsored. Charming and ambitious, Ethan seemed to embody the rags-to-riches dream her parents championed. Against their cautious advice, Emma married him, believing his quiet smiles hid a love as fierce as hers. But 1 year into their marriage, Ethan died in a car accident, or so she thought. The truth unraveled in a cascade of audits and investigations that exposed massive financial fraud. The Simmons Corporation crumbled, creditors hounded her father, and Emma watched, helpless, as Richard's proud shoulders slumped under the weight of betrayal. The final blow came on a rain-soaked rooftop, where Emma and her father stood, cornered by debts they could not pay. "We trusted him," Richard whispered, his voice breaking. Emma's hand slipped from his as they leapt, the city lights blurring into darkness. Death was not the end. Her untethered soul drifted across oceans, drawn to a cherry blossom grove in Japan. There, under a canopy of pink petals, she saw Ethan, alive, laughing, his arm around Summer, a girl from his orphanage days. "If Emma hadn't forced me to marry her," he boasted, his voice dripping with contempt, "I might have spared her and her father. But I shorted the Simmons Group and transferred their assets. They got what they deserved." Summer's laughter, sharp and cruel, pierced Emma's spectral heart. Ethan had never loved her. He had used her family's wealth to fund his escape and build a life with his true love. The revelation shattered Emma, but as despair threatened to consume her, the pendant's light flared, pulling her back through time. She awoke in her 18-year-old body, the year she was to be engaged to Ethan. The pendant's glow faded, but its message was clear. She had been given this chance to right the wrongs of her past, yet doubt gnawed at her. Could she destroy Ethan, the man she had once loved so fiercely? Her fingers traced the pendant's intricate carvings, a gift from her mother on her 10th birthday. Eleanor had said it holds the strength of our lineage, her eyes soft with secrets. When fate falters, it guides. Emma wondered if magic or madness had brought her back, but the pendant's warmth steadied her resolve. She rose, her silk nightgown whispering against the hardwood floor, and crossed to the window. The Simmons estate sprawled below, a testament to her parents' legacy. Richard, with his commanding presence, and Eleanor, with her quiet wisdom, had built more than wealth. They had built hope, sponsoring underprivileged boys like Ethan to give them a future. Yet their kindness had invited a viper into their home. Emma's reflection stared back, her jaw set. She would protect her family, no matter the cost. But as she gripped the pendant, a flicker of fear surfaced. What if her thirst for justice turned her into someone as heartless as Ethan? The heart of fate pulsed once, as if to say, "Choose wisely." Emma stood in the grand foyer of the Simmons mansion, the chandelier above casting prisms of light across the marble floor. Now cool against her skin, the pendant seemed to watch as she steadied her breath. Today was the day her parents, Richard and Eleanor Simmons, would discuss her future, a conversation that, in her past life, had led to her doomed engagement to Ethan. She glanced at the family portrait on the wall, her father's commanding gaze, her mother's gentle smile, and her own younger self, blissfully unaware of the betrayal awaiting. The Simmons Corporation, a financial titan built on her parents' vision, was her birthright, but it was also a beacon that had drawn wolves like Ethan to their door. Richard Simmons, a man whose handshake could seal million-dollar deals, had always balanced ambition with compassion. Eleanor, with her quiet intellect, tempered his drive with wisdom. Together they had amassed wealth and fostered hope, sponsoring 4 underprivileged boys, Ethan, Ryan, Logan, and Caleb, through their charitable foundation. The orphaned or abandoned boys were brought into the Simmons household a decade ago, given elite education and exposure to high society. The intent was clear, to mold them into allies supporting Emma and the Simmons legacy after her parents were gone. "They're not your suitors, Emma," Eleanor had once said, brushing her daughter's hair. "They're your brothers in spirit, meant to stand by you." Yet, in her past life, Emma's blind love for Ethan had twisted that vision into tragedy. Now, as she descended the spiral staircase, the boys awaited in the drawing room, their voices a low hum. Ethan, with his polished charm, leaned against the fireplace, exuding confidence that masked his greed. Brooding and sharp-eyed, Ryan sat apart, his silence louder than words. Logan, ever the peacemaker, laughed easily, while Caleb, the quietest, observed with a scholar's intensity. They had transformed from the shy, grateful boys of their early years into young men shaped by privilege, each carrying the weight of their debt to the Simmons family. Emma's heart tightened. She had once seen them as family, but Ethan's betrayal had cast a shadow over them all. Could she trust any of them, or had her parents' kindness sown seeds of ruin? Richard called her into his study, Eleanor at his side. Lined with leather-bound books and mahogany, the room smelled of her father's cigar smoke. "Emma," Richard began, his voice firm yet warm, "you're 18 now, and the world is watching. We've heard whispers of Ethan's ambitions, stock trades, connections with questionable investors. We trusted him, but we're not blind." Eleanor reached for Emma's hand, her touch grounding. "We never meant for you to marry any of the boys, darling. Ethan's charm won you over last time, and we let it happen, fearing we'd push you away. We regret that." Her mother's eyes glistened, a rare crack in her composure. Emma swallowed, the pendant's faint pulse urging her forward. In her past life, she had begged her parents to bless her engagement to Ethan, dismissing their concerns as overprotective. Now, their words struck like a warning bell. She said, "I see him now," her voice steady despite the ache in her chest. "Ethan's not who I thought. I want to protect our legacy, not hand it to a traitor." Richard's shoulders relaxed, pride flickering in his gaze. "You're our daughter," he said, "stronger than you know. But be careful, Emma. Vengeance can consume as easily as love." The warning lingered as Emma returned to the drawing room. The boys looked up, their expressions a mix of curiosity and wariness. Ethan's smile was too perfect, a mask she now recognized. "Emma, what did Mr. Simmons say?" he asked, his tone light but probing. She met his gaze, her smile cool. "Just family matters, Ethan. Nothing you need to worry about." His eyes narrowed, a flicker of unease betraying him. Ryan's stare burned into her, as if sensing her shift. Logan grinned, oblivious, while Caleb's quiet scrutiny unnerved her. Had he seen through Ethan, too? Alone in her room later, Emma stood before her mirror, the pendant glinting in the lamplight. Her parents' trust was a lifeline, but their regret over Ethan stirred her doubts. She had loved him once, poured her heart into a man who saw her as a stepping stone. The memory of his laughter under those cherry blossoms twisted like a knife. Yet Richard's words echoed, "Vengeance can consume." Could she dismantle Ethan without losing herself? She gripped the pendant, its silence now a challenge. The Simmons legacy was hers to defend, but the shadows of her past life whispered of the cost. She would need to tread carefully, for the line between justice and cruelty was perilously thin. Emma sat at the polished mahogany dining table, the clink of silverware against fine china filling the Simmons mansion's opulent dining hall. The chandelier above cast a warm glow, but the air felt heavy with unspoken truths. Tonight's dinner was a ritual, a chance for the Simmons family and their 4 sponsored boys, Ethan, Ryan, Logan, and Caleb, to gather. Yet for Emma it was a battlefield. Fabulous, cool against her chest, the pendant sharpened her senses, urging her to see beyond the smiles. Her past life's memories burned. Ethan's betrayal, her family's ruin, and the cherry blossom grove where he had mocked her sacrifice. Tonight she would study her enemy and his ally, Summer, the woman who had fueled his treachery. Ethan sat across from her, his tailored suit and easy grin a perfect facade. To the untrained eye, he was the ideal protege, charismatic, intelligent, and grateful for the Simmons' generosity. But Emma saw the calculation in his glances, the way his eyes lingered on the crystal decanter or her mother's emerald ring. In her past life, she had mistaken his ambition for passion, his flattery for love. Now, she recognized the greed beneath his charm. He spoke of market trends, his voice smooth, but his words were laced with subtle probes about the Simmons Corporation's investments. Richard, her father, nodded politely, but Emma caught the flicker of suspicion in his eyes. Eleanor, her mother, steered the conversation to safer topics, her grace a shield against Ethan's probing. Beside Ethan sat Summer, invited as his childhood friend from the orphanage. Her delicate features and demure smile belied a cunning Emma had once ignored. Summer's auburn hair was swept into an elegant updo, her dress a calculated blend of modesty and allure. Emma knew her story now, pieced together from fragments of her past life and whispered gossip. Summer had grown up in the same orphanage as Ethan, a place of cold walls and scarce hope. She had clawed her way out, not with talent, but with manipulation, weaving herself into Ethan's dreams of grandeur. She saw the Simmons family as a golden ticket, a chance to escape her past and claim the elite status she craved. Summer had played the victim in her past life, accusing Emma of cruelty to win Ethan's loyalty. Emma watched her sip wine, her eyes darting to Ethan with a possessive glint. "Summer, tell us about your studies," Eleanor said, her tone warm but probing. Summer's smile widened, her voice soft yet practiced. "I'm majoring in art history, Mrs. Simmons. Learning about beauty is humbling when I've seen so little of it growing up." The table murmured sympathetically, but Emma's stomach twisted. She remembered Summer's crocodile tears at a cruise party, claiming Emma had pushed her into a pool. The lie had cost Emma Ethan's trust and her dignity. Now she saw Summer's words for what they were, a performance to ingratiate herself with the Simmons family while signaling her allegiance to Ethan. Ethan leaned closer to Summer, his hand brushing hers. He said that Summers always had an eye for the finer things, his tone teasing but loaded. Their subtle exchange, a glance, a smile, confirmed Emma's suspicions. They were plotting, using her family's wealth to build their future. Summer had whispered to Ethan in her past life, fueling his resentment. "Emma's just a spoiled princess. You deserve better." Those words had driven him to short the Simmons stock, to fake his death, to leave Emma and her father to ruin. The pendant pulsed faintly, as if warning her to act. Emma's gaze shifted to the other boys. Sitting to her right, Ryan ate in silence, his jaw tight. His disapproval of her past devotion to Ethan was palpable, yet his presence steadied her. Logan, ever cheerful, cracked a joke, easing the tension, while Caleb's quiet stare seemed to dissect the room's dynamics. Her parents' trust in these boys, meant to be her allies, now felt like a gamble. Could she rely on them, or would they too harbor ambitions? The question gnawed at her, stirring the fear that had haunted her since her rebirth. What if her quest for justice turned her into someone as cold as Ethan? She had loved him once and believed in his goodness. Destroying him meant confronting the part of herself that still ached for that illusion. As dessert was served, plum tarts, Eleanor's favorite, Emma spoke, her voice light but deliberate. "Ethan, you and Summer seem close. Do you ever miss the orphanage days?" The table stilled. Ethan's smile faltered, but he recovered quickly. "We share a bond, Emma. Hard times forged that." Summer nodded, her eyes meeting Emma's with a flicker of challenge. "Ethan's my family," she said softly. The words were a claim, a line drawn. Emma smiled back, her heart racing. She was no longer the naive girl who had gifted Summer jewelry, desperate for approval. She was the Simmons heiress, and she would expose their game. Later, alone in her room, Emma stood by the window, the pendant glinting in the moonlight. The dinner had revealed Ethan's mask and Summer's ambition, but it had also deepened her doubt. Could she outmaneuver them without losing the warmth her parents cherished in her? The pendant offered no answers. Its silence reminded her that her path was hers to forge. Ethan and Summer were a storm gathering, but Emma was no longer a leaf in their wind. She would protect her family, even if it meant facing the darkness within herself. Emma leaned against the balcony railing of the Simmons mansion, the evening breeze carrying the scent of jasmine from the gardens below. The pendant, a quiet weight on her chest, seemed to hum with the rhythm of her heartbeat, urging her to trust her instincts. After the tense dinner, where Ethan and Summer's ambitions had revealed themselves, Emma felt the walls of her past life closing in. She needed an ally, someone whose loyalty wasn't tainted by greed. Her thoughts turned to Ryan, the brooding boy whose sharp words had always cut through her spoiled facade. His devotion had been her salvation in her past life, even if she hadn't seen it until it was too late. Ryan Carter was an enigma among the four boys her parents had sponsored. Raised in a foster home marked by neglect, he had arrived at the Simmons estate at 12, his eyes wary but fierce. Unlike Ethan, who soaked up privilege like a sponge, Ryan resisted it, as if comfort were a debt he couldn't repay. He excelled in academics and martial arts, his discipline a shield against the world. Yet to Emma he had been a thorn, mocking her tantrums, rolling his eyes at her lavish parties. In her past life, she had dismissed him as cold, blind to the quiet ways he watched over her. After her death, Ryan had returned from abroad, dismantled Ethan's empire, and sat by her grave, his final words haunting. Don't love him again. He had died by suicide, his bloodshot eyes fixed on her photo, a sacrifice she now carried like a wound. Ryan stood in the garden below, his silhouette sharp against the moonlit lawn. He was polishing a motorcycle, a hobby he kept private, his hands steady but his posture tense. Emma descended the stairs, her silk dress whispering against the stone steps. "Ryan," she called, her voice softer than she intended. He looked up, his dark eyes narrowing, as if bracing for one of her whims. "What do you want, Emma?" His tone was gruff, but there was a flicker of something, concern, perhaps, that betrayed him. She smiled, a playful glint in her eyes, and held up a bowl of grapes. "Peel these for me." It was a test, a nod to their past life when she demanded frivolous things, only to be met with his sarcasm. Ryan snorted, wiping his hands on a rag. "Get a maid, princess." But Emma stepped closer, her fingers brushing his as she handed him the bowl. "Yours tastes sweeter," she teased, her voice low. His ears reddened, a crack in his stoic armor, and he took the bowl, muttering under his breath. As he peeled the grapes, his movements precise, Emma watched, her heart stirring. This was the Ryan who had saved her from a fire at 14, a memory she had wrongly attributed to Ethan. The scar on his shoulder, hidden beneath his shirt, was proof of his unspoken heroism. They sat on a garden bench, the grapes forgotten between them. "Why do you stay?" Emma asked, her tone serious now. "You could have left, gone anywhere." Ryan's jaw tightened, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "Your parents gave me a life I didn't deserve. I owe them." His voice cracked, revealing a boy who had fought for every scrap of belonging. Emma's throat tightened. In her past life, she had been too consumed by Ethan to see Ryan's loyalty, his quiet acts of care, leaving her favorite snacks on the table, waiting by the gate when she was late. Now she saw the depth of his devotion, and it scared her. Could she trust him, or would her heart lead her to another betrayal? The pendant pulsed faintly, as if sensing her doubt. Emma's mind churned with the weight of her mission. Ethan and Summer were plotting, their dinner glances a prelude to her family's ruin. She needed Ryan's strength, but opening her heart felt like stepping into a storm. "You always thought I was spoiled," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Do you still?" Ryan turned to her, his eyes searching hers. "You're more than that, Emma. You just never saw it." His words hit like a spark, igniting a warmth she hadn't felt since her rebirth. But doubt lingered. Would she lose the clarity she needed to destroy Ethan if she let Ryan in? Or was his love the anchor that could keep her from becoming the monster she feared? As crickets chirped in the distance, Emma stood, brushing a grape from her lap. "Thanks for the peel," she said, her smile masking the turmoil within. Ryan watched her go, his expression unreadable. Back in her room, Emma clutched the pendant, its silence a challenge. Ryan's devotion was a gift, but came with a price: vulnerability. She had to protect her family and expose Ethan and Summer, but the path felt narrower now. Could she wield justice without sacrificing her heart? The night stretched on, and Emma knew one thing. Ryan was her ally, but her battle was far from won. Emma stood before the ornate mirror in her bedroom, the morning light filtering through silk curtains. The pendant, nestled against her collarbone, pulsed faintly, as if sensing the weight of the day ahead. Today her parents, Richard and Eleanor Simmons, would convene with the four sponsored boys, Ethan, Ryan, Logan, and Caleb, to discuss her future, a conversation that, in her past life, had sealed her engagement to Ethan and her family's doom. Her reflection stared back, resolute yet shadowed by doubt. Could she defy the past without losing the compassion her parents cherished? The memory of Ethan's betrayal, his laughter with Summer under cherry blossoms, steeled her. But Ryan's quiet devotion lingered, a reminder of what she stood to gain or lose. Downstairs, the drawing room buzzed with anticipation. Richard sat at the head of the table, his presence commanding, while Eleanor's gentle smile masked her sharp intuition. The boys, dressed in tailored suits, occupied the plush chairs, their postures revealing their natures. Ethan's easy confidence masked his greed. Ryan's tense silence hinted at unspoken loyalty. Logan's warm grin diffused tension, and Caleb's quiet gaze dissected the room. Emma entered, her emerald dress a nod to her mother's elegance, and took her seat. The pendant's warmth steadied her as Richard cleared his throat. "Emma's future is ours to safeguard," he began. "We've raised you boys as family, but her path is hers. We seek your thoughts." Emma had pleaded for Ethan in her past life, her heart blind to his ambition. Her parents, reluctant but indulgent, had agreed, a choice that led to ruin. Now, Ethan leaned forward, his smile calculated. "Emma's always been the heart of this family," he said, his voice smooth. "I'd do anything to support her." The words were honeyed, but Emma caught the glint of expectation in his eyes, as if her hand were a prize already won. Ryan's jaw tightened, his fingers curling into fists, while Logan nodded enthusiastically, and Caleb remained unreadable. Eleanor's gaze met Emma's, a silent question. "Are you ready?" Emma drew a breath, her voice clear. "I'm still in college, Father. There's no rush to choose a husband. I want to focus on the Simmons legacy, not marriage." The room stilled. Ethan's smile faltered, and there was a crack in his facade. Ryan's eyes flicked to her, surprise softening his guarded expression. Logan laughed, breaking the silence. "That's our Emma, who is always full of surprises." Caleb's lips twitched, a rare hint of approval. Richard's pride was evident, but Eleanor's hand squeezed Emma's under the table, a gesture of support and concern. "Wise words, darling," she said. "Your father and I trust your judgment." The meeting dissolved, but Ethan lingered, his expression tight. "Emma, a word?" he asked, his tone clipped. She followed him to the hallway, the pendant pulsing like a warning. "What's this about?" he demanded, his charm gone. "Everyone expects us to be together." Emma met his gaze, her smile cool. "Expectations change, Ethan. I'm not the girl I was." His eyes narrowed, but before he could retort, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his face softening. A message from Summer, no doubt. "I have to go," he muttered, striding away. Emma knew where. Summer's birthday, a lavish cruise party where, in her past life, he had humiliated her, slapping her face when Summer falsely accused her of cruelty. Instead of chasing him, Emma returned to her room, her heart racing. She dialed Ryan. "Join me for tea in the garden," she said, her voice light but firm. Minutes later, he appeared, his dark hair tousled, his expression wary. They sat under a pergola draped with wisteria, the air sweet with blooms. "You shocked everyone today," Ryan said, his tone half admiring, half skeptical. Emma sipped her tea, then set it down. "I froze Ethan's card," she confessed. "The bank's under my orders. He's been spending our money on Summer." Ryan's eyes widened, then narrowed. Bold move. He won't take it lightly. Emma nodded, her fingers brushing the pendant. In her past life, she had been naive, showering Ethan with gifts he passed to Summer, believing his lies. Now, she was striking back, but the act felt like a step into the shadow. "Am I doing the right thing?" she asked, her voice barely audible. Ryan leaned closer, his gaze intense. "You're protecting your family. That's enough." His words were a lifeline, but doubt gnawed at her. Could she dismantle Ethan without becoming as ruthless as he was? Her parents' love, their trust in her, was a beacon, but vengeance was a fire that could consume her soul. As the sun dipped low, Emma stood, her resolve firm. "Stay with me, Ryan," she said, not a plea, but a choice. He nodded, a silent vow. The pendant glowed faintly, as if approving. Ethan was heading to a party that would mark his first fall, but Emma was no longer the girl who followed. She was the Simmons heiress, and would rewrite her story, even if it meant facing the darkness within. Emma sat in the Simmons mansion's sunlit conservatory, her phone buzzing with a message from the family's cruise company manager. The pendant, warm against her skin, seemed to pulse with approval as she read the report. Ethan's lavish party for Summer had imploded. Unable to pay the bill after Emma froze his card, he had been publicly humiliated before their college classmates. The news sent a thrill through her, but a shadow of unease followed. In her past life, she had chased Ethan to that same cruise, enduring his slap when Summer lied about her cruelty. Now she had struck first, orchestrating his disgrace from afar. But was this justice, or was she becoming the cold strategist she feared? The conservatory's glass walls framed a view of the estate's manicured lawns, a reminder of the Simmons legacy she was fighting for. Her parents, Richard and Eleanor, joined her, their presence a quiet anchor. Richard's brow furrowed as he sipped his coffee. "You froze Ethan's card without warning," he said, his tone more curious than reproachful. "It's a bold move, Emma, but it's stirred trouble." Eleanor set down her teacup, her eyes searching Emma's. "We trust you, darling, but revenge is a steep path. Are you sure you can walk it without losing yourself?" Their concern cut deep, echoing the doubt that had haunted her since Rebirth. Emma clutched the pendant, its heat grounding her. "I'm protecting us," she said, her voice firm but laced with vulnerability. "Ethan betrayed us. I won't let it happen again." Richard nodded, pride mingling with worry. "You're our daughter, strong like your mother, but strength needs balance. We're here, always." Eleanor squeezed her hand, a silent promise. Their support bolstered Emma, but the weight of her actions pressed harder. She had set Ethan's fall in motion, but the thrill of control felt dangerously close to cruelty. The pendant's glow seemed to flicker, as if cautioning her to tread carefully. Her phone rang, shattering the moment. It was Ethan, his voice taut in fury. "Emma Simmons, why the hell is my card frozen? You've humiliated me." She could picture him, pacing the cruise dock, his polished facade crumbling as classmates whispered. She would have begged for his forgiveness in her past life, desperate to soothe his anger. Now she leaned back, her tone icy. "The Simmons family funded your life, Ethan. It's time you earned your way." Silence stretched, then his voice turned venomous. "You're petty, Emma. Jealous because I chose Summer's birthday over your childish amusement park plans. Find someone else to play with." He hung up, but Emma smiled, unfazed. She blocked his number, her fingers steady. Turning to her laptop, Emma opened social media, where posts about the cruise fiasco were spreading. She uploaded a photo from her recent Disney World trip with Ryan, the two laughing under a cascade of fireworks. The caption read, "Living my best life." Comments flooded in, classmates marveling at her glow, speculating about Ryan's rare smile. The post was a calculated move, a public declaration that she was no longer Ethan's shadow. But as she scrolled, a pang of guilt surfaced. Was she using Ryan to hurt Ethan, or was their connection real? The pendant's warmth reassured her, but her heart wavered. Ryan appeared at the conservatory door, his leather jacket slung over one shoulder. "Heard about the cruise," he said, his eyes scanning her face. "You're playing a dangerous game." Emma stood, crossing to him. "It's not a game, Ryan. It's survival." His gaze softened, but he didn't reply, his silence a question she wasn't ready to answer. The other boys, Logan and Caleb, joined them, drawn by the news. Logan's grin was infectious. "Ethan's toast. The whole school's talking." Caleb, ever reserved, added quietly, "He underestimated you. That's his mistake." Their support was unexpected, a reminder of her parents' vision. These boys were meant to be her allies, not just Ethan's rivals. Emma dined with her parents that evening, the table set with Eleanor's favorite lavender linens. Richard raised a glass. "To Emma, our fearless heiress." The toast warmed her, but Eleanor's eyes held a warning. "Stay true to your heart, darling," she said softly. Emma nodded, but the pendant's heat felt like a challenge. Ethan's fall was just the beginning, a public crack in his armor. Yet, as she lay in bed, the thrill of victory mingled with fear. Was she avenging her family or indulging a darker impulse? The line was blurring, and Emma knew she had to hold fast to her parents' love and Ryan's quiet strength to keep from crossing it. Emma paced the polished hardwood floor of the Simmons Mansion's library, the scent of old leather books mingling with her rising tension. The pendant, a steady warmth against her chest, pulsed as if echoing her resolve. Ethan's public humiliation at Summer's cruise party had sent ripples through their social circle, but Emma knew he wouldn't retreat quietly. She had been his puppet in her past life, chasing his approval with gifts and sacrifices, only to see them lavished on Summer. Now she had struck back, freezing his funds and exposing his facade. But the victory felt hollow, shadowed by the fear that her vengeance was reshaping her into someone her parents might not recognize. The library doors swung open and Ethan stormed in, his face bruised and suit rumpled, a far cry from his usual polish. Under Simmons's control, the cruise company's debt collectors had been merciless, leaving marks of his disgrace. "Emma Simmons, are you done throwing your tantrum?" he demanded, his voice sharp with desperation. His eyes, once warm with feigned affection, now burned with rage. Emma stopped pacing, her gaze cold. In her past life, she had crossed the city at midnight to buy him soup dumplings, only to find them on Summer's desk. She had lit lanterns for him, bought jewelry he flaunted, all to win a love that was never hers. The memories fueled her, but also stung, a reminder of the girl she had been. "Tantrum?" Emma's voice was steel, cutting through his bravado. "You used my family, Ethan. You took our trust, our money, and planned to destroy us. You're no victim." Ethan flinched, but his defiance held. "You think you're above me because your dad handed you everything? I'm not your pet, Emma." His words echoed the past, when she had begged him to stay, sacrificing her dignity. Now, she stepped closer, her eyes unyielding. "You're right. You're not a pet. A dog is loyal. You're nothing." The words sliced, Ethan's face contorted, his hands trembling with fury. Emma's heart raced, not with fear, but with a dangerous thrill. She could crush him, and part of her reveled in it. But her parents' voices echoed, Richard's warning of vengeance's cost, Eleanor's plea to stay true. Was this justice, or was she indulging a darkness that could consume her? The pendant's heat intensified, as if urging her to choose. "Butler!" she called, her voice ringing through the library. The head butler, a loyal fixture of the Simmons household, appeared instantly. "Escort Mr. Carter out. He's no longer welcome in this house. Ever." Ethan's eyes widened, panic breaking through his anger. "Emma, you can't—" The butler, flanked by 2 staff members, seized Ethan's arms. He struggled, shouting, "You'll regret this, Emma Simmons!" as they dragged him toward the grand foyer. Emma followed, her steps measured, watching his pathetic figure shrink against the marble columns. The heavy oak doors slammed shut, silencing his protests. She stood in the quiet, her hands trembling. The act was final, severing the bond she had once cherished. But the weight of her power unsettled her. Had she gone too far, or not far enough? Her parents found her in the library, Richard's arm around Eleanor's shoulders. "Richard said you did what you had to," his voice firm but tinged with sorrow. "He was a son to us, Emma, but he chose his path." Eleanor's eyes, soft with concern, met hers. "You're strong, darling, but strength can wound you too. Don't let this define you." Their words were a lifeline, pulling Emma back from the edge of her ruthlessness. She nodded, tears pricking her eyes. "I want to protect us," she whispered, "but I'm scared I'll lose myself." Eleanor embraced her, her warmth a reminder of the love that anchored her. Ryan appeared at the doorway, his leather jacket slung over one shoulder, his expression unreadable. "He's gone," he said, but his eyes held a question. "Are you okay?" Emma wiped her tears, forcing a smile. "Thanks for being here, Ryan." He nodded, but his silence spoke volumes. Logan and Caleb, drawn by the commotion, joined them. Logan's usual cheer was subdued. "Ethan's out for good, huh? Feels weird." Caleb, ever observant, added, "He underestimated you, Emma. That's his first mistake." Their support, though tentative, strengthened her resolve. These boys, her parents' chosen allies, were not Ethan. She had to trust them, even if her heart feared another betrayal. As night fell, Emma stood by her bedroom window, the pendant glinting in the moonlight. Expelling Ethan was a victory, but it was only the beginning. Summer remained, and Ethan's desperation would make him dangerous. The thrill of her power clashed with the fear of losing her compassion. Her parents' love, Ryan's quiet presence, and the boy's loyalty were her anchors, but the path ahead was treacherous. She had defied her past, but could she forge a future without breaking her soul? The pendant's silence urged her to find out. Emma stood in the Simmons mansion's rose garden, the morning dew clinging to crimson petals. The pendant, a quiet weight against her chest, pulsed faintly, as if sensing the delicate balance of her next move. Expelling Ethan from the household had been a triumph, but his public humiliation at Summer's cruise party had only sharpened his desperation. Emma had been a pawn in his game in her past life, her devotion fueling his betrayal. Now she was the strategist, planning to expose him further. But the thrill of deception stirred unease. Could she outmaneuver Ethan and Summer without losing the warmth her parents cherished in her? The garden gate creaked, and Logan bounded in, his infectious grin starkly contrasting the tension coiling within her. Logan Harper, one of the 4 boys sponsored by her parents, was the group's peacemaker, his easy charm disarming even the iciest moods. Raised in a chaotic orphanage, he had embraced the Simmons' generosity with gratitude, his loyalty tempered by a naive trust in others. "Heard about Ethan," he said, tossing a pebble into the fountain. "Guy's spiraling. You shook him up, Emma." His tone was light, but his eyes held a flicker of concern, a reminder that Ethan had been his friend too. Emma forced a smile, her mind racing. She needed an ally to execute her next step, a lavish makeup party for summer, ostensibly to mend ties but designed to lure Ethan into a trap. Logan's trust made him the perfect candidate, but manipulating him felt like a betrayal of her parents' vision. The pendant warmed, urging her to proceed with care. "Logan," she began, her voice soft, "I messed up with Summer's birthday. I want to throw her another party, something grand. Will you help me get Ethan there?" She let her eyes glisten, feigning remorse. Logan's brow furrowed, but his kindness won out. "Sure, Emma. If it'll fix things, I'm in." Before she could respond, Caleb appeared, his quiet presence almost ghostly. Caleb Nguyen, the most reserved of the boys, had grown up in poverty, his sharp intellect honed by years of survival. He was a scholar, analyzing the world with a detachment that unnerved Emma. "I overheard," he said, his voice low. "Ethan's been making risky stock bets against Simmons Holdings. I found records in the library's financial logs." His dark eyes met hers, a silent offer of alliance. Emma's breath caught. Caleb's insight was a gift, but his scrutiny made her question her motives. Was she protecting her family or indulging a vendetta? She led Logan and Caleb to the mansion's study, where Richard and Eleanor reviewed reports. The room, lined with oak shelves, hummed with the weight of the Simmons legacy. Emma said Ethan's out of the house, but he's not done. "I'm planning a party for summer to draw him out." Richard's gaze sharpened. "Clever, but dangerous. Ethan's wounded, not broken." Eleanor touched Emma's arm, her eyes soft with worry. "You're our strength, darling, but don't let cunning eclipse your heart." Their words echoed her fears. Deception was a tool, but it risked turning her into the traitor she despised. The pendant's heat intensified, a reminder of the line she walked. Emma outlined her plan, a cruise party, funded by the Simmons Corporation, where she would publicly affirm her independence and expose Ethan's reliance on her family's wealth. Logan nodded eagerly, brainstorming guest lists, while Caleb offered to monitor Ethan's financial moves. Their support bolstered her, but guilt gnawed. Logan's trust was pure, Caleb's loyalty calculated. Could she honor both without compromising her mission? Her parents' faith in these boys, meant to be her allies, felt like a test she wasn't sure she could pass. Later at college, Emma spotted Ethan outside her lecture hall, his eyes red-rimmed but defiant. He announced Emma's mad at me loudly, drawing classmates' attention. "Until she apologizes for freezing my card, I'm done with her." His theatrics were a desperate bid to save face, but Emma walked past, her expression serene. She found Logan in the quad, her voice trembling with feigned hurt. "I just wanted Ethan to care," she lied. "This party will make things right." Logan hugged her, promising to ensure Ethan's attendance. As she pulled away, her smile hid a pang of remorse. Deceiving Logan felt wrong, but it was necessary. Back home, Emma stood before her mirror, the pendant glinting in the lamplight. The party would be her chessboard, Ethan her pawn. But the cost weighed heavily. Her parents' warnings, Logan's trust, Caleb's quiet allegiance, all reminded her of the girl she wanted to be. Could she expose Ethan without betraying her own heart? The pendant offered no answers, and its silence was a challenge. Emma straightened, her resolve firm. She would play the game, but do it her way, holding fast to the love that defined her. Emma descended the spiral staircase of the Simmons mansion, her gold mermaid gown shimmering under the chandelier's glow. The pendant, warm against her chest, pulsed with a steady rhythm, as if affirming the pivotal moment ahead. Tonight's cruise party, ostensibly a gesture to mend ties with Summer, was her carefully laid trap to expose Ethan's treachery and reclaim her place as the Simmons heiress. She had been a naive shadow in her past life, chasing Ethan's approval while he plotted her family's ruin. Now she was a force, but the weight of her deception, manipulating Logan's trust, leveraging Caleb's insight, gnawed at her. Could she unveil Ethan's true nature without tarnishing her own? The living room buzzed with her parents' quiet encouragement. In a tailored tuxedo, Richard adjusted his cufflinks, his pride evident. He said, "You've planned this well, Emma," his voice steady but tinged with caution. "But stay sharp. Ethan's desperate." Eleanor, radiant in sapphire silk, cupped Emma's face. "You're our light, darling. Don't let this night dim you." Their words, a blend of trust and warning, anchored her. The Simmons legacy was at stake, but so was her heart. The pendant's heat intensified, a reminder of the fine line between justice and vengeance. Ryan awaited her at the foot of the stairs, his dark suit accentuating his sharp features. His eyes, usually guarded, softened as she approached. "You look like trouble," he said, a rare teasing note in his voice. Emma twirled, her smile masking her nerves. "Good trouble, I hope. Will you stand by me tonight?" His nod was firm, but his gaze held a question. "Are you sure?" She touched his arm, drawing strength from his presence. Logan and Caleb, already at the dock, had ensured Ethan's attendance, their roles in her plan a testament to her parents' vision of them as allies. Yet Emma's heart ached. Deceiving Logan, even for justice, felt like a betrayal of that vision. The cruise ship, a Simmons holding, glittered against the night sky, its decks adorned with crystal and roses. Summer stood at the center, her white gown a calculated nod to innocence, surrounded by admiring classmates. Her smile faltered as Emma entered, Ryan at her side. Ethan, beside Summer, froze, his face a mix of arrogance and unease. "Emma, you're here to apologize, right?" he called, his voice loud enough to draw eyes. Summer tugged his sleeve, her sweet facade masking panic. "Please don't be harsh, Ethan," she cooed, but her eyes darted to Emma, wary. Classmates whispered, their assumptions explicit. Emma was the desperate admirer, clinging to Ethan despite his love for Summer. Ryan's hand tensed in hers, his anger palpable. "This is the guy you're fighting for?" he muttered. Emma squeezed his hand, whispering, "Trust me." She stepped onto the stage, the microphone cool in her grip. The crowd hushed, their curiosity piqued. Ethan's smirk faded, sensing a shift. Summer's fingers twisted her gown, her composure cracking. Emma's heart pounded, the pendant's warmth urging her forward. This was her moment, but doubt lingered. Would exposing Ethan free her or bind her to a cycle of retribution? Emma began with her voice clear. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining this celebration. I have 2 announcements." Murmurs rippled. "She organized this? Isn't she just Ethan's shadow?" She smiled, unfazed. "First, I am Emma Simmons, sole heiress of the Simmons Corporation, and I'm proud to announce my fiancé, Ryan Carter." She gestured to Ryan, who stepped forward, his presence commanding. The crowd gasped, jaws dropping. Ethan's face drained of color, his fists clenching. Summer's smile froze, her eyes flashing with fear. Ryan's gaze met Emma's, a mix of surprise and quiet resolve. "Second," Emma continued, her tone icy, "Ethan was raised by my family and given every opportunity, but he's proven himself an ungrateful freeloader. As of tonight, the Simmons family has severed all ties with him. His actions reflect only his character, not ours." The room erupted. "She's the heiress? Ethan's nobody?" Ethan lunged forward, his voice hoarse. "Emma, you can't do this! You're forcing me out because I don't love you!" She raised a hand, silencing him. "I force nothing, Ethan. You chose your path." She walked off the stage, Ryan at her side, ignoring Ethan's shouted threats. Her parents greeted her at the dock, Richard's approving nod, and Eleanor's embrace was fierce. "You were brilliant," she whispered, "but stay true, darling." Emma nodded, tears stinging. The revelation had shattered Ethan's facade, but the cost weighed heavily. Had she honored Logan's trust or exploited it? Was she freeing her family or fueling her pride? The pendant cooled, its silence a challenge. As she boarded the car with Ryan, the city lights blurred, a canvas of her new beginning or her next battle. Emma sat beside Ryan in the sleek black car, the city lights streaking past as they left the cruise ship behind. Now cool against her skin, the pendant seemed to settle, its purpose fulfilled for the night. Her public revelation, declaring herself the Simmons heiress, naming Ryan her fiancé, and cutting ties with Ethan, had shattered Ethan's facade and stunned their peers. Yet, the triumph felt fragile, shadowed by the weight of her deception. She had used Logan's trust and Caleb's insight to orchestrate the event. And Ryan's quiet presence beside her stirred a deeper question. Was her heart leading her to love, or was she still playing a game of revenge? The silence between them was heavy, charged with unspoken truths. Ryan's hands gripped the steering wheel, his jaw tight. "You pulled it off," he said, his voice low. "Ethan's done. But announcing me as your fiancé? Was that for him or you?" His words cut, revealing a vulnerability Emma hadn't expected. In her past life, she had been blind to Ryan's devotion, mistaking Ethan for her savior in a childhood fire. After her death, Ryan had bankrupted Ethan and died beside her grave, his final plea haunting, "Don't love him again." Now, she saw the scar on his shoulder, a faint line visible through his open collar, proof that he, not Ethan, had carried her from the flames at 14. The realization had sparked her announcement, but doubt lingered. Was she worthy of his trust? Emma turned to him, her emerald gown catching the dashboard's glow. "Ryan, I need to tell you something." Her voice trembled, the pendant's silence urging her to be honest. "In my past life, I thought Ethan saved me from that fire. I gave him everything, my heart, my family's fortune. But it was you." She reached for his hand, her fingers tracing the scar. "I saw it tonight and I knew. I chose you because I see you now, not to hurt Ethan." Ryan's eyes widened, his breath catching. The car slowed, pulling into a quiet overlook above the city. Fireworks from a distant festival lit the sky, their bursts mirroring the storm within her. He unbuckled his seatbelt, turning to face her. "Emma, you don't know what you're saying. I'm not some hero. I stayed because I owed your parents, because—" His voice cracked. "Because I couldn't leave you." The admission broke something in Emma. She leaned forward, her lips meeting his in a kiss that felt like a confession. Memories flooded, Ryan waiting at the gate when she was late, leaving her favorite pastries with a gruff excuse, his quiet presence a constant she had overlooked. The kiss deepened, his hand cradled her face, and Emma felt whole for the first time since Rebirth. But as they parted, her tears fell. "I was so blind," she whispered. "I don't deserve you." Ryan's gaze softened, his thumb brushing her cheek. "You're not that girl anymore, Emma. You're fighting for your family. I'm with you, whatever comes." His words were a vow, but her heart ached. She had manipulated Logan, leaned on Caleb, and used Ryan's name to strike at Ethan. Was her love for him pure or tainted by her need for justice? The pendant, now still, offered no guidance, leaving her to face her truth. They drove to the Simmons mansion, where the night air was calm through the open windows. Her parents, Richard and Eleanor, waited in the foyer, their relief palpable. Richard clapped Ryan's shoulder. "You've always been her protector, Ryan. We hoped she'd see it." Eleanor pulled Emma close, her voice soft. "You were radiant tonight, darling, but love is your strength, not just strategy. Hold on to it." Their words warmed her, but they also sharpened her guilt. Her parents had envisioned the boys as allies, not pawns in her chess game. Logan's trust, Caleb's quiet support, had she honored or exploited their roles? Upstairs, Emma stood before her mirror, the pendant glinting in the lamplight. The cruise had been her victory, but revealed more than Ethan's treachery. It had shown her the depth of Ryan's love and the fragility of her own heart. She thought of Logan's eager help, Caleb's calculated allegiance, and her parents' unwavering faith. Could she balance love and justice, or would one consume the other? The fireworks faded outside, and Emma made a silent vow. She would protect her family and Ryan, but do it with truth, not deception. The path ahead was uncertain, but she felt ready to face it for the first time, hand in hand with the man she had always needed. Emma stood on the balcony of the Simmons mansion, the city skyline a glittering testament to her family's legacy. The pendant, cool against her skin, seemed to rest, its guidance no longer urgent after her triumph at the cruise party. Declaring herself the Simmons heiress and Ryan's fiancée, while severing ties with Ethan, had shifted the tide, exposing his treachery to their elite circle. Yet, the victory was bittersweet. Her deception, using Logan's trust and Caleb's insight, left a lingering guilt. Could she uphold her parents' vision of justice without sacrificing her integrity? Ethan's downfall was unfolding, but the cost of her actions weighed heavily. Below, the morning paper lay open on a wrought iron table, its headline stark. Simmons Corporation pursues fraud charges against former protege. The article detailed Ethan's illicit stock manipulations, uncovered by Caleb's research and pursued by the Simmons legal team. Regulators were investigating and lawsuits loomed, threatening Ethan with financial ruin and potential jail time. Emma's decision to freeze his card had been the spark. Now, the law was the fire. Ethan's schemes had bankrupted her family in her past life, leaving her and her father to leap from a rooftop. Justice was closing in, but Emma wondered if it would heal or deepen her scars. Inside, her parents, Richard and Eleanor, sat in the drawing room, their faces a mix of resolve and sorrow. Richard folded the paper, his voice steady. "Ethan's actions demanded this, Emma. You've protected our legacy." Eleanor's eyes, soft with concern, met hers. "But justice isn't vengeance, darling. Stay our Emma, not his shadow." Their words echoed her fears. The pendant's silence felt challenging, urging her to balance retribution with compassion. She nodded, her throat tight. "I want him to face consequences, not suffering for suffering's sake." Richard's hand squeezed hers, pride evident. "That's our daughter." The doorbell chimed and Logan and Caleb entered, their expressions somber. Logan, usually buoyant, rubbed his neck. "Ethan's a mess, Emma. Summer dumped him, called him a broke loser in front of everyone. His loyalty to Ethan had wavered, and his trust in Emma was now firm." Caleb, ever analytical, added that he's been gambling and racking up debts. "A casino leaked a humiliating, explicit video. It's viral." His tone was neutral, but his eyes held a quiet respect for Emma's strategy. Both boys, once Ethan's allies, had chosen her, fulfilling her parents' vision of them as her protectors. Yet Emma's heart ached. Had she earned their loyalty, or manipulated it? She recalled Ethan's past life boasts under cherry blossoms, his betrayal orchestrated with Summer. Summer had abandoned him, her ambition leading her to a wealthy heir's side. Social media buzzed with her public spat with Ethan, her words cruel. "You're nothing without money." Ethan's spiral was swift, drinking, skipping classes, and gambling in a rigged casino. The leaked video, a final blow, had stripped his reputation bare. Emma watched a clip on her phone, her stomach turning. Ethan's defiance was gone, his eyes hollow. Pity stirred, but she pushed it down. He had chosen this path. Emma joined her parents for dinner that evening, and the table was set with Eleanor's favorite crystal. Richard raised a glass to our legacy and Emma's strength. Eleanor's smile was warm but cautious, and to her heart, which guides us. The toast grounded Emma, but guilt lingered. She had used Logan's kindness, leaned on Caleb's intellect, and drawn Ryan into her plan. Was she worthy of their trust? The pendant, now still, offered no answers. She thought of Ryan, his kiss under the fireworks, his vow to stand by her. His love was her anchor, but she had to prove she deserved it. Later, in the library, Ryan found her, his leather jacket slung over one shoulder. "Ethan's finished," he said, his voice soft but firm. "You did what you had to." Emma looked up, her eyes searching his. "Did I? Or did I go too far?" He stepped closer, his hand brushing hers. "You're fighting for your family, Emma. That's enough." His words eased her, but the question lingered. The legal battles would bury Ethan, but would they free her from the past? As she leaned into Ryan's embrace, the city lights beyond the window promised a future she could shape, if she could hold fast to her heart. Emma stood at her bedroom window in the Simmons mansion, the morning sun casting golden rays across the estate's sprawling gardens. The pendant, now still against her chest, no longer pulsed, its mystical guidance complete. 3 months had passed since the cruise party, where she had declared herself the Simmons heiress, named Ryan her fiancé, and severed ties with Ethan, exposing his treachery. The legal battles that followed, spearheaded by her family's attorneys, had buried Ethan in fraud charges, his stock manipulations unraveling under regulatory scrutiny. Yet Emma's heart remained restless. Had she honored her parents' vision of justice, or had her pursuit of retribution cost her the compassion that defined her? Downstairs, her parents, Richard and Eleanor, sipped coffee in the sunlit dining room, their faces etched with pride but softened by concern. The Simmons Corporation thrived under Emma's growing leadership, and her studies in finance and strategy are a testament to her resolve. Richard set down his cup, his voice warm. "You've carried our legacy, Emma. We chose those boys to support you, but you've become your strength. Eleanor reached for her hand, her eyes searching. We're proud, darling, but don't let the past steal your joy. You're more than this fight. Their words stirred her guilt. She had manipulated Logan's trust and leaned on Caleb's insight, but their love reminded her of the girl she wanted to be. Emma's phone buzzed with a message from Caleb. Ethan's debts have spiraled. He's hiding, but the lawsuits are closing in. In her past life, Ethan's betrayal, shorting Simmons' stock, faking his death, had driven her and her father to despair. Now, his ruin was complete. Summer, his accomplice, had fled to a wealthy heir, only to face scandal when his wife exposed her. Logan, once Ethan's friend, had fully aligned with Emma, and his loyalty was a quiet apology. Caleb's analytical support had been crucial, his research fueling the legal onslaught. Yet, Emma wondered if she had earned their allegiance or exploited it, a question that haunted her since her rebirth. As she prepared to leave for a bridal boutique, her car rolled down the driveway, only to screech to a halt. A filthy figure stumbled into the road. Ethan, his clothes torn, his body gaunt, wounds festering. His gray eyes, once sharp with ambition, were dull, yet lit faintly upon seeing her. "Emma," he rasped, his voice barely audible. "Have you stopped wanting me?" The pendant lay silent, offering no guidance. Emma stepped out, her heart a tangle of pity and resolve. In her past life, she had loved him, sacrificing everything for a lie. Now his broken form was a mirror of his choices. Ethan collapsed to his knees, tears mixing with grime. "Last night I dreamed I killed your parents, stole your fortune, and caused your death. If that was real, this is what I deserve." His confession echoed her past life's truth, a chilling reminder of his betrayal under cherry blossoms with Summer. Emma's voice was steady, cold. "You're right, Ethan. The Simmons family gave you everything. For the bond we shared, you should never have destroyed us. I never forced your love, not then, not now. This end is yours alone." He crumpled, pleading, but she turned away, her heart heavy but unyielding. Emma gripped the wheel in the car, the pendant a quiet weight. Pity had stirred, but justice prevailed. Ethan's legal and financial ruin, debts, lawsuits, a viral video of his casino humiliation, had stripped him bare. Summer's betrayal had sealed his isolation. Yet Emma's internal conflict lingered. Had she become too hard, too much like the Ethan she despised? Her parents' love, Logan's trust, Caleb's loyalty, and Ryan's devotion were her anchors, but she had to prove she was worthy of them. At the bridal boutique, Ryan waited, his smile softening the morning's tension. He pulled her into his arms, his leather jacket warm against her. "You okay?" he asked, his eyes searching. Emma nodded, her voice soft. "I faced Ethan today. It's over." Ryan's hand brushed her cheek, his love a steady flame. "You're free now, Emma. We both are." Inside, she tried on a gown, its ivory lace a promise of a future untainted by the past. Her parents arrived, Eleanor's tears joyful, Richard's nod of quiet pride. "You've chosen well," he said, glancing at Ryan. As they left, Emma looked back at the boutique, the pendant still against her heart. Ethan's ruin was justice, but her new dawn was love. Ryan's, her parents', her own. She had protected the Simmons legacy, but her true victory was reclaiming herself. The past was gone, and the future, bright with possibility, was hers to shape.